Family, friends, colleagues, distinguished guests, it comes the hour for us to celebrate, to be thankful, to reflect on the life of a scholar, of a teacher, of a leader, of a mentor, a member of the Eagle Nation, Dr. Genevieve Madeline Wright. I can see Dr. Knight walking this campus. I'll say more about it later. It seemed like I always encountered her in the parking lot. You could recognize Dr. Knight from afar. Part of that was just her presence. Even though we are struggling with the absence of her physical presence, Dr. Knight's influence, her impact will be with us forever. So we're grateful. I am going to guide us through the experience this afternoon as we reflect on her life. And before we get into the program, I'm going to invite the president of Coppin State University, the chief eagle in the Eagle Nation, Dr. Anthony L. Jenkins, is going to come and greet us. Put your hands together, would you please, for our president.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Let me first start by welcoming everyone and saying good afternoon. For those who this is your first time at Coppin State University, I wish you would have had the opportunity to visit us under different circumstances. For those who have been with us before, welcome back. As the president of Coppin State University, I want to extend on behalf of the entire Coppin family our deepest condolences to Dr. Knight's family. I also want to thank everyone for joining us today, including former U.S. University System of Maryland Chancellor Britt Kirwan and my fellow president, Dr. Freeman Herbowski. As we pause to celebrate the extraordinary life of a remarkable woman, Dr. Genevieve Knight. And although I did not have the pleasure of ever meeting Dr. Knight, the stories and the comments that have been shared with me clearly illustrate that she was a phenomenal person and a transformational educator. And earlier this week, we had the opportunity to bestow upon her the Faculty Emeritus title, which was long overdue for her 25 extraordinary years of service to this institution and to higher education. My late grandmother would always tell me that people do not come into your life to stay. They are merely passing through. And if you are lucky, if you are blessed, they will transform your life for the better. Your being here today and those joining us video, we are blessed and we are lucky because Dr. Knight passed through. Thank you, and again, welcome. Let's celebrate an extraordinary life.
Thank you, Dr. Jenkins. We're going to move through the program pretty seamlessly. If things go well, you'll only see me twice. So I'm going to request that after the invocation, that you would come in order. You know who you are, and you know why you're here. So come in order following the program, and I will return to the podium just before the selected tributes. But let's bow our heads in a word of prayer. Our Father and our God, we thank you, first of all, for life. And we thank you for your presence in this room. We thank you that you blessed us to encounter someone like Dr. Knight. We thank you for the influence that she has had upon us all. We thank you for the investment that she made in this institution. We thank you for all of the seeds that she sowed into the lives of young people. Now, God, we ask you that you would fill up this room with your presence, that you would fan the flames of celebration, that you would let your angels take up their positions and guide us to peace and joy. We thank you for what we've experienced by encountering her in our lives. Now bless us in this memorial. And regardless of our faith traditions, or whether we have no faith tradition at all, we all stand in agreement by saying amen, and we thank you.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen.
Good afternoon. My name is Valerie McMillan Hardy, and I am honored to be here today to speak and share with you all in the joyous celebration of Dr. Knight. Dr. Knight and her sister, my Aunt Loretta, have served as model educators, and as a fellow educator and leader of secondary schools, I'm blessed to be able to share some scripture with you today. Today I'll be reading from the King James Version of the Bible, First Chronicles chapter 29, verses 12 through 14. Both riches and honor come of thee, and thou reignest over all. And in thine hand is power and might, and in thine hand it is to make great and to give strength unto all. Now therefore, our God, we thank thee and praise thy glorious name. But who am I, and what is my people, that we should be able to offer so willingly after this sort? For all things come of thee, and of thine own have we given thee. The Lord's word is blessed.
Good afternoon. My name is Agina Chavez. I will be reading also a Bible scripture from John 13, 12 to 17. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I have done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them.
Good afternoon. I'm Bonita Saunders, and I'm one of Dr. Knight's daughters. Dr. Knight had no children, but she has many daughters and also many sons. I've known her since over 40 years, actually, since I was a young 20-something and became a faculty member at Hampton Institute and Hampton University. And we actually came to the Washington, D.C. area at the same time. So I moved from becoming a scared 26-year-old to becoming a very close friend of Dr. Knight. And I visited her many times at Riderwood. And during that period, she gave me probably the greatest compliment that she could have. She said, "Bonita, you make me feel like a person." A lot of times as our loved ones age and our friends age, we forget about that they are people, that they still have the same ideas and loves that they had before. Over the last few years, Dr. Knight and I had a lot of conversations. Some of them lasted for 2 hours or more. And right away, they knew me. Sometimes instead of having her go to the dining room, they'd just give up and just bring the dinner to her room. But I really, the time that I had with her was wonderful. And I really wish that we had become close much sooner than that, because there's so much I've learned from her over these last few years, and I could learn even more. I'm going to read two or three proclamations here. The first one is from the Maryland General Assembly. In memoriam, be it hereby known to all that sincerest sympathy is extended to the family of Dr. Genevieve Knight for her commitment to improving the lives of so many through her teaching and mentoring students from historically Black colleges and universities. She was a real educational pioneer, and we will never forget her selfless acts. Presented on this 18th day of September 2021 by Senator Guy Gazon, Delegate Vanessa E. Atterbury, Delegate Shane Pendergrass, and Delegate Jen Terrassa of Howard County Legislative District 13. From the Senate of Maryland, Resolution number 521. Be it hereby known to all that sincerest sympathy is extended to the family of Dr. Genevieve M. Knight. The entire membership offers its respectful condolences and directs this resolution be presented on the 18th day of September 2021. William C. Ferguson IV, President of the Senate, Senator Dolores G. Kelly, sponsor. The state of Maryland. Be it known, the citizens of Maryland offer this memorial tribute to the memory and the life achievements of a beloved Marylander and extend our heartfelt sympathy to the family of Dr. Genevieve M. Knight. This respectful expression of condolence to be presented on this 13th day of September 2021. Larry Hogan, Jr., Governor. Boyd K. Rutherford, Lieutenant Governor. John C. Wobensmith, Secretary of State. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Sean Brooks, and I too am one of Dr. Knight's children. Most of what I know about teaching, I learned from her. She would always tell me, just because you have a Ph.D. doesn't mean you know how to teach. I took that cue and I studied from her how to be a good teacher. She would tell me, you can't teach somebody that you don't know. And I find that to be also true. This first proclamation comes from young, brilliant Mayor of Baltimore, the city of Baltimore, a memorial tribute in honor of Dr. Genevieve Knight. I, Brandon M. Scott, Mayor of the city of Baltimore, extend my deepest condolences to Dr. Knight's family and friends as you mourn her loss. For nearly 40 years, Dr. Knight was a math educator at historically black colleges and universities, including Baltimore's Coppin State. Throughout her lengthy career, Dr. Knight was a strong advocate for equity for women and minorities, particularly in math and mathematics education communities. She earned numerous awards for teaching and mentoring, as well as a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics. Please accept my most heartfelt sympathy, September 18th, 2021, Brandon M. Scott. This next proclamation is from our courageous state's attorney, Marilyn Mosby. It says, it is with great sadness that the Office of the State's Attorney for Baltimore City offers our sincere condolences to the loved ones of Dr. Genevieve M. Knight. She will be remembered for her enthusiasm for education and passion for mathematics. She was a pioneer for women in STEM fields and an inspiration to every student that had the privilege to take her classes. Dr. Knight leaves behind a legacy of dedication, brilliance, hard work, and determination. May the peace that comes from the memories of love and kindness comfort you now in the days ahead. Please accept my deepest condolences on this 22nd day of August 2021. Marilyn M. Mosby. I had another proclamation. However, Dr. Sanders, she read mine, so so I won't be able to do that one. God bless you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Clarence Williams, and I am too a son of Dr. Genevieve Knight. And I have a couple of proclamations I'm going to read as well. The first one coming from the Association for Women in Mathematics. Dear Ursula, I was saddened to learn the depth of your aunt, Genevieve Knight. I am writing to extend my deepest condolences to you and to the family of Dr. Knight on behalf of the Association for Women in Mathematics, our members, and our leadership team. For many years, Dr. Genevieve Knight worked with the Association for Women in Mathematics to promote activities for girls to increase their interest in mathematics through grants from the National Science Foundation and Coppin State University. She was a key leader in our Summer Kowalski High School Mathematics Days program. For more than 20 years, Summer Kowalski Days have been organized by AWM members and held in colleges and universities throughout the country. The Summer Kowalski Days consist of a program of workshops, talks, and problem-solving competitions for female high school and middle school students and their teachers, both men and women. In 2018, the Association for Women in Mathematics named her as one of their inaugural fellows. The Fellows Program recognizes AWM members who have demonstrated a sustained commitment to
the development, as you were, to the support and achievement of women in mathematical sciences, consistent with the AWM mission to encourage women and girls to study and to have active careers in mathematical sciences and to promote equal opportunity and equal treatment of women and girls in mathematical sciences. Dr. Knight was a strong advocate for equity and inclusion in mathematics. She visited many institutions to give mathematical presentations as an advocate for equity and thus was a role model for many minority students and women across the country. She encouraged others to not only try but complete projects that one felt initially were hard. And she would be the strongest supporter to move to the next step. We are fortunate and grateful that Dr. Knight was a generous and valuable member of our community, the executive director. The next one is from NCTM, National Council for Teachers and Mathematics. Dear Ms. Wright, we are saddened to learn of the passing of your Aunt Genevieve Knight from the email you sent to the NCTM address. You have our sincere sympathy. I consider Dr. Knight somewhat of a gentle giant who was a formidable presence as an advocate of mathematics education and the possibilities it affords. Former CTM President Skip Fennell introduced me to Genevieve at a NCTM national meeting shortly after I came to NCTM more than 20 years ago. Although she was a former board member and Lifetime Achievement Award recipient at the time, I had little context for who she was and all that she had accomplished. But I remember the meeting vividly. Although I never worked closely with her, I am honored to have known her. NCTM is fortunate to have been one of the beneficiaries of Genevieve Knight's long commitment to mathematics education. We all extend our heartfelt condolences to you and your family, the Executive Director. The next one is from the HCFBECA. Okay, that's the Howard County Foundation for Black Educational and Cultural Achievement. To Ms. Wright. If you want to know the sum of addition, count your blessings. Dr. Genevieve Knight has been a blessing to the Howard County Foundation for Black Educational and Cultural Achievement, Inc. My late husband and I met Dr. Knight in 2005. As one of the founders of the foundation, my husband explained the mission because we were always looking for contributors. She believed in our mission of supporting youth by raising money for scholarships. She started contributing in 2005 and never missed a year thereafter. Dr. Knight often repeated this quote by Angelo. I've learned that you shouldn't go through life with a catcher's mitt on both hands. You need to be able to throw something back. And indeed she did. Dr. Knight taught at Hampton Institute, now University, my alma mater, for 17 years. She spent her whole life teaching and mentoring students. She was always happy to receive a thank you from the students for her scholarship and was interested in their welfare. She was mostly happy when the students kept in contact with her through the years. I remember that once she gave a little celebration at Lake Elkhart for a student who had received her scholarship. She felt that if students worked hard, they could be anything they wanted to be. Dr. Knight's death is a sad loss for you and your family and many others who knew her. She was truly a philanthropist and a gracious woman who made life much more pleasant for everyone around her.
Good afternoon, everyone. Wanda McCoy here, and I guess you know I'm also one of Dr. Knight's daughters, right? I will be reading the obituary. Genevieve Madeline Wright was born on June 18, 1939, in Brunswick, Georgia, to Thomas and Ruth Brown Knight. She was the last of 3 beloved daughters born of this union. In 1957, Genevieve graduated from Risley High School in Brunswick, Georgia, as a valedictorian. 4 years later, in 1961, she graduated with a BS in mathematics from Fort Valley State University, where she was a member of Alpha Kappa Mu Honor Society, Beta Kappa Chi Scientific Honor Society, and the Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Despite entering college as a home economics major, Genevieve soon redirected her field of study after being inspired by the Sputnik space launch. She aspired to support America's ambition to be the first country to reach the moon. Mathematics was declared as her new major since it required fewer labs than the science offerings. After graduating with honors from Atlanta University in 1963 with an MS in mathematics, Genevieve became a National Science Foundation, NSF, Graduate Research Fellow, a prestigious program that recognizes and supports outstanding graduate students in NSF-funded STEM disciplines. While attending a lecture, Genevieve met a woman who had earned a Ph.D. in mathematics and became inspired to pursue one as well. In 1970, Dr. Knight received her Ph.D. in mathematics education from the University of Maryland, College Park. Genevieve made a conscious decision to work at historically Black colleges and universities. She taught for 17 years at Hampton Institute, now Hampton University, and taught another 25 years at Coppin State University. Genevieve placed great value on investing her talent, time, and treasure in the mathematics and science communities of color. She complemented her service to historically Black colleges and universities with academic pursuits at Penn State Harrisburg Capital College, where she was a scholar in residence and a graduate professor of mathematics, and at Fayetteville State University, where she served as a Belk Endowed Professor of Science and Technology. Genevieve was a nationally recognized advocate for women and people of color in mathematics and mathematics education communities. She used her influence to help shape equity conversations pertaining to these communities decades before it was popular. During her 40-plus year, Genevieve taught and advised students, served on the board of directors for the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics, NCTM, helped found the Benjamin Banneker Association Incorporated, served on the NCTM Task Force for Girls and Underrepresented Groups in Mathematics, materially contributed to the Equity and Excellence in Science and Mathematics project, and was a tireless equity advocate. Many awards attest to Genevieve's status as a master teacher and mentor. She garnered distinguished teaching awards from both Hampton University and Coppin State University. In 1980, Genevieve was named Virginia College Mathematics Teacher of the Year, and in 1993, the Maryland College Mathematics Teacher of the Year. Also in 1993, she received the Distinguished Teaching Award for College and University Faculty from the Mathematical Association of America, Maryland, DC, and Virginia section. She was honored in 1987 with the Outstanding Faculty Award for Mathematics and Mentoring of Minority Youth from the White House Initiative on Historically Black Colleges and Universities. Genevieve was named the Wilson H. Elkins Distinguished Professor for the University System of Maryland in 1996. In 1999, she received the National Council of Teachers of Mathematics Lifetime Achievement Award. In 2015, she received the Dr. Etta Z. Falconer Award for Mentoring and Commitment to Diversity from the Infinite Possibilities Conference, a signature program of Building Diversity in Science, BDIS. Women of people of color across the mathematics community benefit greatly from her advocacy and her labor. Dr. Genevieve Knight retired as a full professor with over 25 years of tenure in the Department of Mathematics and Computer Science at Coppin State University. On September 16, 2021, Genevieve was conferred with Emerita Faculty status by Coppin State University. At 3:50 p.m. on Thursday, August 19, 2021, Genevieve quietly departed life and entered into eternal rest. Genevieve is survived by her sister Loretta Knight Wright, two nieces Ursula Wright and Tia Wright, and a host of extended family and friends. This lifelong educator posthumously continues her commitment to teaching and learning by donating her body to science. Her body was donated to the Uniformed Services University at the Walter Reed National Military Medical Center, and her brain was donated to the Brain and Tissue Bank at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank the children of Dr. Knight for their words, and to continue the Maya Angelou theme. She said, try to be the rainbow in somebody's cloud. Dr. Knight has been the rainbow in our cloud. So we come today, and we've come to the time for tributes to Dr. Knight. We come to speak about how she has had an impact on us and how she has influenced our lives. But we see all of these accomplishments that Dr. Knight achieved over her professional life. So I would ask this of those who are coming to speak. Please be deliberate in your time. Respect the family. We all have had the experience where you go to a celebration and it goes on and on and on. We could all say a lot, but let's try to keep it to a few minutes. As the eulogist, I'm giving myself 10. So please try to keep it to a few. And after, we're coming in threes, and the musician, if you would, after every third person, if you would just give us a brief 15-second interlude will be fine. Coming to us first is Dr. William Britt Kirwan. I will come back to you at the end of all of the tributes. Let's put our hands together for Dr. Carroll.
Thank you very, very much. I am truly honored and privileged to be able to say a few words about Genevieve Knight as we celebrate the life and work of this remarkable person. Believe it or not, I first met Genevieve over 50 years ago. I was a young assistant professor in mathematics at the University of Maryland, College Park, and she was a student there on leave from Hampton University, pursuing her Ph.D. in mathematics education. In the fall of 1968, I was assigned to teach advanced calculus, which is often considered the litmus test for aspiring mathematicians. On the first day of class, into the room walked this tall, striking young student with an infectious smile and an accent much like mine. We immediately bonded. Many things about Genevieve impressed me back then, which continued to impress me throughout our long friendship. First was her fearless thirst to learn. I say fearless because too often students in mathematics hesitate to ask questions for fear their question will seem silly or ill-informed. Not Genevieve. She was fearless and she was a sponge for knowledge. Never satisfied to sort of understand a topic, she would raise questions in class, more than almost any other student. And if she wasn't satisfied with my answer, she would push on until she was. Also, unlike most of the other students, she would come to my office hours regularly to explore in greater depth topics we had discussed in class. As I think we all know, Genevieve's inexhaustible curiosity and unquenchable thirst for knowledge were constants throughout her life. A second characteristic I saw in Genevieve, even back then, was her passion for helping others. When the class broke into groups to work on problems collectively, she would masterfully help other students who were struggling. I could tell even back then she was destined to be an exceptional teacher. Genevieve completed her Ph.D. and returned to Hampton University, where she quickly rose through the ranks to become chair of the mathematics department there. Fortunately for us, she became acquainted there with a young mathematics student named Freeman Habrowski. Obviously, she made quite an impression on Freeman. When Freeman came to Compton as provost and needed to hire some math faculty, he recalled Genevieve, reached out to her, and recruited her to Compton. Among his countless other brilliant decisions, how fortunate we are that Freeman brought Genevieve to Compton. Her impact on this university, the University System of Maryland, and the state was profound. Over the several decades following that advanced calculus class, Genevieve and I had infrequent contact. We'd occasionally run into one another at a math meeting or a USM event. But whenever we did, there was always a warm embrace and an engaging conversation. As I suspect all of you have experienced, you meet certain people in life where there's a special bond. For such people, you can go long periods of time never seeing them. But when you do, it's as if you've never been apart. Genevieve was such a person for me. After I became chancellor of the system in 2002, our frequency of contact increased significantly. She was on various system-wide committees, and I had the benefit of her advice on many matters. As we all know, Genevieve was never shy about voicing her opinions. And wow, did she ever have strong opinions. Most often, I took her advice. But sometimes, usually to my regret, I have to admit, I didn't. That didn't matter with her. She never took offense. She'd tell you what she thought and was then ready to move on to something else. What a wonderful and valuable quality to have in a friend. Not surprisingly, Genevieve was a recipient of many awards and prizes, as we've heard today. Most describe qualities we would recognize in her: outstanding teacher or exceptional mentor. There is one, however, that was mentioned that might not fit this category, but conveys exceptional recognition. And I want to emphasize this. Genevieve, as was noted a moment ago, was selected as a Wilson Elkins Professor at the University System of Maryland, and that might have just passed right over you. But let me tell you about this. This is a very special title given every few years through a highly competitive and rigorous process to 2 or 3 faculty across the entire University System of Maryland. So among thousands of faculty, 2 or 3 are selected for this award. It recognizes exceptional faculty members for their seminal contributions to scholarship and teaching. Here's how USM describes those given this high honor. The Wilson Elkins Professorship recognizes and supports professors and research who demonstrate exemplary ability to inspire students and whose professional work and scholarly endeavors make a positive impact at their institution, across the system, and beyond. I think we can all agree that this describes Genevieve very well. There is so much to admire about Genevieve. She was in so many ways a role model for a productive life well spent. She had an uncommon generosity of spirit and a passion for helping others, including most especially her beloved students. She had the admirable capacity to rise above personal differences and focus on advancing the quality of her personal performance in the institutions she served. Oh, do we ever need more Genevieve Knights in our world today? And oh, how she will be missed. But her life and her spirit will continue to inspire us, just as she did me when she walked into my advanced calculus class some 53 years ago. Thank you.
I'm a little shorter. Good afternoon. I'm Nancy Shapiro. Sadly, I was not one of Genevieve's daughters. My loss. I first met Genevieve when I came to USM to direct the K-16 project for Chancellor Don Langenberg. She was an awesome and outspoken advocate for Koppen and mathematics. She introduced me to the Maryland statewide mathematics community, which became an important foundation for all of our K-16 and P-20 collaborations over the years across the state. She and Denny Gulick at the University of Maryland led the statewide math work group, where I learned about math standards, math placement, math transfer, all still essential elements for college success and college access. I remember she invited me to be part of a panel at a national mathematics conference back in 2012. She was always going to conferences. She wanted me to be on the panel to talk about the system perspective of Common Core. I sent her my resume, and she wrote back to me, and I'm quoting from an email. There have been discussions about the role of some persons without subject matter content knowledge, her email said. She continued in all caps. I told them, Look at Nancy Shapiro, who has an English background. She knows nothing about STEM. So she put me in my place while defending me on the panel. Genevieve was a mentor to me. Her commitment to Coppin, to her students, to mathematics and mathematics education were inspirational. We continued to correspond and talk after she moved to Riderwood in 2014. She wanted me to keep her informed about the comings and goings of the P20 community. And one day in 2015, she asked me about a new federal grant that I had just received on developmental mathematics, which was her passion. I got busy and I forgot. The next thing I know, I get an email from President Hrabowski's Associate Director of Sponsored Programs, Stan Jackson. Turns out she called Freeman and asked him to remind me to send her what she asked for. As Britt said, she was nothing if not persistent. A few years later, I told her that I considered her to be one of my mentors, my early mentors in math education when I first came to the system 20 years ago. She responded in an email, "It is an honor that you refer to me as one of your mentors." And then she went on, "If others had listened to me, like you did, and worked as a team, things would have been a lot better." Sounds like Genevieve, right? We stayed in touch with calls and emails. I think the last time I heard from her was when she asked me about the Kirwan Commission. She believed that education protects our future. She was so proud of the work that Britt was doing. In closing, I will reiterate, Genevieve Knight was first and foremost a math educator who loved Coppin students, and teaching. She took me under her wing early in my career at USM, and for that I'm so grateful. When I think about her passing, I imagine that she went out in a blaze of glory. Rest in peace, Genevieve.
It's good to be home. I should say that we complete a circle when I think about Britt's having taught her in '68. I met her as a 16-year-old in '66. And so you can call me her oldest son somehow. And I want to use a quote from another great Black educator who inspires me to think about Genevieve. And this is Mary Mcleod Bethune. And I'm so deeply moved by Ursula and Tia and Mrs. Wright. What's so significant to me as I think about all of you and what you have achieved, as I came and looked in your faces, the power of education to transform lives. Genevieve was proud of her family, and in her own way made it very clear that all of you are quite smart. It was very clear that she had no problem with that. Dr. Bethune wrote, as the head of that school for girls of color that became Bethune-Cookman, "We burned logs and used the charred splinters as pencils. For ink, we mashed up elderberries. Strangers gave us a broom, a lamp, some cretonne to drape around the ugly packing case, which served as my first desk. Day after day, I went to the city dump and visited trash piles behind hotels, looking for discarded linen and kitchenware, cracked dishes, and shattered chairs. I became adept at begging for bits of old lumber and bricks and even cement. And one day, a potential donor, a benefactor, entered my office, which was formed with this crate paper and the broken down chairs. And he looked at me and he said, "Where is this school you want me to be a trustee of?" And she said, I looked in his eyes and I said, "In my mind, in my soul." And there is Genevieve Knight. She loved her students. She loved mathematics. She loved life. When I first heard her over in the math building, and I was a kid. I was truly a kid, a freshman. It was a booming voice, a rich Southern accent, Britt, a kind of joie de vivre, a joyful spirit as she was looking around, and you just felt her presence somehow. And I said, who is that lady? And that's it. And at the time, she was a teacher, Ms. Knight, Genevieve Knight, yep. And I was determined to meet her. And I went up, and the first thing she said to me was, you're a little fellow. You're in college? You know, she would say what she really thought. And from then, we began a great friendship. And what was significant was I would do to her what she did to Britt, and that is I would go to her office all the time to talk about math, talk about life. She was curious. She was nosy in a wonderful way. She's going to ask you your business. She really, and she was going to tell you what to do. And if you didn't do it, she still loved you. But she would tell you what she really thought. But we became very close. And the other person that was a part of my math circle was Dr. Geraldine Darden, a mathematician there. And you know that name because her relative, her sister-in-law, Christine Darden, is one of those hidden figures, another Hamptonian. And so there we were there. And I learned, most important, as I was a tutor in math and worked with her, I learned something that was said earlier, and that is, if you're going to be an effective teacher, you must know the subject matter, but you must know the people. You must know the students. And so when I was looking for, as a dean here, a young dean, I was looking for math teachers and math professors, and I called her up and I just said, Dr. Knight, suggest somebody who might be that person. And she said, what about me? And I said, but you're at Hampton, our beloved. If you know, we Hamptonians love Hampton, right? She said, yeah, but the retirement system isn't as good as Maryland's, right? She said they've got a good retirement system there. And I've been here almost 2 decades, and I love children. I love young people. And Coppin was known for producing teachers. And so she did come after almost 2 decades in Hampton, spent 25 years here, did a magnificent job. I want to thank President Jenkins for taking the step to designate her as Professor Emerita. People really wanted that. I heard that from people, and I was so proud when you did it. She thought of Clarence Williams as her grandson almost, because he was my student. So he was like my son and her grandson, and others in the department. But this is what I want you to think about with all the awards and all of that. What is the essence of Genevieve Knight? It's the lives she's touched. As I've talked to her educated nieces, a Spelmanite and a Hamptonian, and with her sister, what comes through is their pride in her high academic achievement and her depth of feeling for other people. She loved Hampton when she was there. She really loved Coppin, and she wanted, Mr. President, if she had been here when she'd be telling you what to do. I want you to know that. She had no problem in calling me up regularly and leaving messages on my phone. Freeman, I saw this in the paper, blah, 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 blah. Wait a minute. And she expected me to get back to her and tell her what I thought. And she cared just that deeply. I want to close with words that were used about Dr. Bethune, because I put Genevieve Knight in the highest level of educators. Dr. Bethune-Cookman, Dr. Mary Mcleod Bethune, Dr. Genevieve Knight, same person, deeply caring about other people. And this was said about Dr. Bethune, and I say it now about my beloved mother. She has given her best that others may live a more abundant life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Grabowski. There's a slight change, and I said that you would only see me twice if things went well. Well, officiant error. Just before the Coppin contingency of our remarks start, Miss Glennis Barber is going to come and render a song.
is like a river, attentive my way. When sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. And, O Lord, haste the day when my faith shall be sight. The clouds be rolled back as a scroll. The trump shall resound, and the Lord shall descend. Even so, it is well with my soul. Please sing with me in Dr. Knight's honor. It is well. Sing with me. With my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Leontie Lewis, and I am one of Genevieve's granddaughters. I first want to extend my appreciation to Dr. Knight's family for the opportunity to tell a story, great memory of Dr. Knight. As we have heard and we will continue to hear, Dr. Knight was a student-centered professor. I came to this country in 1985 and enrolled at Coppin in 1987. Dr. Knight was professor for me in 3 of my mathematics courses, but college algebra was the first. She knew my major was teacher education, and so in her true fashion, she facilitated my growth as a teacher by having me lead the practice sessions in her classroom after she led the whole group discussion. And for some, that may not seem as a big deal, but for me, it was massive. You see, in 1987, talk about accent, I had a strong Jamaican accent. And so some people saw it as a negative. And as a human being, I responded to that sometime. But Dr. Knight, she looked beyond that. She looked beyond that unfamiliar sound and she lifted me up. And as we've heard, you're not allowed to say no. I was not allowed to say no. You know she's not a pushover. She's no nonsense. She's direct. She's vocal. And she had high expectations. And so you do not say no to her. I was so unsure of being in front of my peers with my strong Jamaican accent and all. But Dr. Knight was a stabilizing force in my interaction in those classrooms. She wanted us to know that mathematics was more than calculations. It was a language. And she taught us that language. And I had to emulate that language and work with my peers to get them to the level that they needed to be in that college algebra class. And I could not say no. And I'm so thankful I did not say no. You see, her support allowed me to become comfortable in my own skin. She saw beyond that accent and she saw my abilities, she saw my skills, and she assisted me in honing those skills to be the best teacher that I can be because she knew what good teaching was. You see, before copying formalized the mantra of nurturing potential and transforming lives, Dr. Knight did just that. She saw our potentials. She nurtured those potentials. And she transformed many, many lives, mine included. I will forever hold Dr. Genevieve Knight in the highest of regard. And I will continue to do my best to emulate her work, her ethic, her belief in the power of the student, her belief in student-centeredness, and that student-centeredness will facilitate change as I continue to hold her mantle high and continue to nurture potential and transform the lives of Coppin students. I am forever grateful to Dr. Knight, and I thank her for all she's done for this institution and for me. And I extend my sympathy, and I know, as we heard, her work will live on because she's still giving. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roland Murray, and I thank you for the opportunity to be here to share with you some thoughts about my experience with Dr. Knight. My opportunity to meet Dr. Knight was in fall 2000 when I moved to the 6th floor of Grace Jacobs building, which was our academic building, the main academic building, the tallest building on campus, where the psychology department and the mathematics and computer science department were housed. Dr. Knight was in mathematics and I was in psychology. We ran into each other occasionally on the elevators or going to various meetings, but we didn't really know each other. The opportunity to learn and to be mentored by Dr. Knight started for me in the spring of 2002. A presidential search was established for the university, and Dr. Knight was appointed chair. It just so happened that I, along with a few others, were also appointed to serve on this search committee. And I was appointed because at that time I was newly elected faculty senate president. So that was my role. Dr. Knight was charged with creating a search process that was new to the campus because it had been at least 30 years since the last presidential search. I was in awe as I watched Dr. Knight at work to lead this monumental effort. I watched her work to build consensus among committee members. I watched her work to ensure transparency to stakeholders, both internal and external. I watched her work and value the strength that others brought to the table and to embrace it. I watched her take the time to reflect before responding. She would often sit in my office with her eyes closed and her hand to her chin, listening to me talk and just think about what I was saying before she responded. She was just very thoughtful in that way and very reflective. I witnessed how she demonstrated her dedication to Coppin with the long hours that she kept to ensure that she was always prepared to serve. During our service on the search committee, Dr. Knight took me under her wings, and for that, I am grateful. She allowed me to be her right hand. She talked with me about what it meant to be of service to your institution, to Coppin, the importance of roles and responsibilities. But most of all, she taught me that the reason that we were at Coppin is to serve the institution. She always said it is not about us as individuals, but what was most important is that we have been charged to teach and to serve. I will be forever grateful for the lasting lessons that she taught me as I continue to serve Coppin. And she truly was a woman of stature, a woman who allowed each and every individual that she met to walk away with something that she poured into you. So thank you, and again, my sympathies for the loss of Dr. Knight.
Good afternoon again. The first thing I want to say is, Dr. Shapiro, you said you were mentored by Dr. Knight. You actually are one of her daughters. I'll be reading the condolence letter of Dr. Geraldine R. Waters, retired from Coppin State University. To the family of Dr. Genevieve M. Knight, my family and I are saddened to learn the passing of Dr. Genevieve Knight. You have our sincere condolences. During her tenure at Coppin State, Dr. Genevieve M. Knight was highly respected by students, faculty, and staff. She was particularly supportive in the Department of Education as she assisted students in passing the various teacher examinations. As chairperson of the math department, she was outstanding. Dr. Knight was always willing to lead. She developed math curricula and was well known for creating new courses. While many saw her as a hard worker and someone who demanded excellence from her students, she was also kind, caring, and a lifelong learner. Having known Dr. Genevieve M. Knight for whatever length of time we shared with her, we should reflect on how much she enriched our lives. Sincerely, Geraldine R. Waters, Ph.D., retired, Coppin State faculty.
My name is William Shaw. And what an honor it is to give a tribute to Dr. Genevieve Madeline Knight. However, 2 minutes are insufficient for me, Dr. Williams, to adequately bring tribute to Dr. Knight, but I will try to comply. The title of the service tribute, so appropriately represent Dr. Genevieve Knight. Her life reminds me of the traditional memorial song with deep spiritual roots by Gwyneth Walker. Let the life I live speak for me. The message of this song is simple and honest. When my days are done, when I've come to the end of my journey, let my actions, my friendships, my struggles, and my caring speak for me. Because the song says, when I'm resting in my grave, there's nothing more to be saved. May the works I've done, speaks for me. There's no need to embellish or praise. The truth is plain yet beautiful. I think Dr. Knight may believe that proverbial statement. If God had called me to be a teacher, I wouldn't stoop to be a king, or even remain a knight, if you please. She was a real teacher. She was a true educator, a teacher of teachers, a teacher par excellence. She taught by example, by demonstrating. She demonstrated teaching strategies. She showed you how to teach at all the levels of instruction: elementary school, middle school, high school, college, graduate school, and even teachers. Be it a theorem, an algorithm, a mathematics procedure, or rule or process, regardless of the abstractness of the concept, she would translate it to concrete, understandable ideas. Her favorite word was conceptual understanding. How do I know? I served with Dr. Knight over 15 years at Coppins University as a facilitator, presenting workshops, seminars, college courses, graduate courses, enriching and enlightening teachers in the public schools throughout the state of Maryland. Most of the counties, but particularly the teachers in Baltimore City. And we even taught in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Dr. Knight was highly recognized in the mathematics education world, nationally and maybe even internationally. At mathematics education conferences and meetings, when Dr. Knight stood and spoke, people stopped and listened because they know she had something to say that was worth hearing. So I say, rest in peace, my friend. As Paul said in 2 Timothy 4, you fought a good fight. You've finished the race. You've kept the faith. Now there's stored up for you a crown of righteousness, even as you continue to give even in death, so that others can live. Dr. Knight, my friend, I say farewell. You have been a master teacher, a good soldier, a witness for God. The work you've done speaks for you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aisha Allman, the proud principal of Coppin Academy. I came to Coppin State University in 1995 with the ideas of a different world, if people remember that TV show. I didn't know what an HBCU was except for what Hillman was. And so I come to Coppin State University excited, passionate about becoming a teacher. And I remember my very first class, and this speaks to all what Dr. Knight would do, caring for young teachers or developing teachers. And I walk into that classroom as I walked up the hill, and I meet this instructor, professor, tall, bold, commanding, and I just knew I was going to fail. It was my first day on the campus, first time in a classroom. But she was the quintessential mathematics professor, glasses on the end of her nose, as I said, tall, commanding, but she was caring. And she threw out the words metacognition, conceptual understanding, abstract math. Again, I knew I was going to fail. But she did tell me, come see me after school, or after class rather. So I did that, And then again, I get into this office. If anyone had visited Dr. Knight's office, papers, books stacked, I said, okay, I'm going to fail. I just, couldn't believe I'm in this professor's office, but she took me under her wing without me really understanding that I was under her wing. And she gave me a little internship or stipend to do some work for her, and we got to talking, and she would always drop and share nuggets, and she said, she wanted me to be excellent in the field, and that takes me to this next piece where she said, okay, I'm going to give you an internship. An internship, what do you mean? I want you to go, and I want you to stay at Solomon's Island for a summer, and she said, I want you to be mindful of who you are. Don't give up. Well, I get there. I'm only 18, 19 years old on this island that's really like a retirement place. There's not many people there, and I go to this lab. I'm not a science person. I don't know what to expect, but she kept telling me, don't give up, don't give up. And I couldn't give up because Dr. Knight said, do it, so you knew you had to do it. But I was kind of a fish out of water, but she came on down to visit me. This professor, you would think, like, why is she coming to see me? But she said, if I come, you got to buy me scallops. She loves seafood. And so I did that. I scraped a little money together and did that. But she, again, put me in places where I was unfamiliar. But she knew, because she wanted you to understand that if you're in a space, you be bold to understand what teaching is about, and then also to represent those coming behind you. I was a young Black female in a science and math world, and there weren't many people that looked like me. But I knew I had Dr. Knight on my side to guide me. Again, she gives me presentations at NCTM conferences. The things that Dr. Knight did for me, I really hold tight to my heart because it helped me to become the leader that I am today. She always spoke about being bold, giving ideas, talking about math language, and those are the things that I do today. And Dr. Knight is really, truly one of my mentors that has guided me to this place that I am here today. She was so caring and so understanding and giving, just always giving. And when I was able to become principal here at the university that I graduated from, and I found her, and I said, please come to the school. It meant so much to me for her to see all the work that she had done, to know that I was doing my best to live through what she asked of me, and she was able to see. I just pray for the family. She spoke of her nieces. I would hear of you all. And I just pray that we do as Coppin State is supposed to do, living in her legacy and doing what she asked of us, and that the fruits of her labor that you see around from everyone comforts you in this time. And I hope that we can continue to live out here at the university all that she was trying to do, bring research to the university and to really make professionalized things. And I really pray that we are able to continue to do that. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to share with you just a little bit, and just to say thank you again, Dr. Knight.
That old familiar place where the winds will blow, no one ever knows the time nor place. Don't Don't cry for me. Don't shed a tear. The time I shared with you will always be. And when I'm gone, please carry on. Don't cry for me. No one is the blame. My death was meant to be. Don't carry guilt or shame. The reason why I came soon, you'll see. Don't cry for me. Don't shed a tear. The time I shared with you will always be. And when I'm gone, please carry on. Don't cry for me. Don't cry when life is not the joy it should be. With life comes pain. Soon time will end this course appointed, and you will be rewarded, and all the world will see. Don't cry for me. Don't shed a tear. The time I shared with you will always be. And when I'm gone, life still carries on. Don't cry for me. We'll always be. Don't cry for
We are indeed grateful for this day and the opportunity to remember and to celebrate the life of Dr. Knight. To the family, I heard Dr. Rybowski say, it's good to be home. And family, this is home. You do not invest as many years into a place as Dr. Knight did and have this not be home. So at any point in the future beyond this day, I would like to say that you can call on the Coppin family. You can touch base at home. Whatever I can do to serve, I'm always available. When I received a call about today, first there was another event planned in the building that was canceled due to COVID concern. And I was uncertain about whether this was going to happen. But as you see, it has happened. It has come. People have pressed their way, even under these circumstances, because of the love that exists for Dr. Knight. And we should never lose that. Let's bow our heads quickly. God, we thank you. We thank you for your presence, and we thank you for your comforting spirit. Now we ask that you would speak to us in the time that is left. Comfort us, heal us, guide us. And we thank you. And we all say together, amen. There's one line that I would like to draw your attention to that I think sums it up. But he that is greatest among you shall be your servant. He that is greatest among you shall be your servant. 2 words, the greatest. The greatest. 2013 article by Scott Kaufman entitled The Complexity of Greatness, Beyond Talent and Practice, also the title of his book that was released that same year. He began to consider how and what defines a person's greatness. In the article, the author referenced various perspectives of learned men throughout history. The great 18th century philosopher Immanuel Kant, Francis Galton, Charles Darwin's cousin, who wrote about hereditary genius, behavioralist psychologists B.F. Skinner and John Watson. And as he laid out the case for reading his recently released book, what I discovered is that there's no formula. There's no guaranteed path. There's no blueprint anyone can provide that will ensure anyone's arrival at greatness. That which defines the person as a cut above, exceptional in both effort and outcomes, is so subjective that here's the reality. When you look at the lives of many people we consider to be great and begin to calculate the cost of their greatness, you have to ask yourself, why would anybody want to be great? I have 2 assignments today. One was to lead through the experience. The other is to say some good words about a great person. But I come saying that with this in mind. As I observed over the years of observing humans in the best and the worst of situations, you cannot define greatness without there being some servitude to others. Servitude is the essential ingredient to greatness. As we look at this line, we saw a teacher who was teaching his followers, which says there was some instructional value in what he was about to say. He said, I'm going to teach you something about being great. The greatest among you will be a servant. That means you'll take a lowly position. But I want you to understand that when you take that position, there's something relational in that position that happens from that place. In fact, I heard the teaching profession referenced. You teach to serve, and you serve to teach. There's a relationship there. You humble yourself. You empty yourself. You make yourself vulnerable to somebody else because you have the interest of serving them. I can see Dr. Knight, we referenced her great teaching. It's not easy being a teacher. I'm in a room of educators. Sometimes those learners don't necessarily demonstrate that they have the cognitive ability, the psychomotor skills, the affective maturity to be able to do what it is that you hope to show them. And you must humble yourself and say, you may get on my nerves and I get on yours, but it'll be all right because I'm here to serve you. It wasn't easy. She came up in a time, born in 1939, Jim Crow, segregation. World War II was in her memory. The 50s, the turbulent 60s, the civil rights movement, but she kept going. Because even as she trafficked through tumultuous history, she realized that service was the pathway to somewhere. You can look at the historical context. You can look at her family context. Oh, what a wonderful statement it is to see the value of education in your family. Those who did not migrate to the north continue to educate their children in the south. You sit as an example of the power of that kind of service. It's not only in the history, it's not only in the teaching profession, it's not only in the family DNA, but it's in our experience here in this room. There are no big I's, no little U's. We're here because we believe in the service of education. We believe in the service of teaching. We believe in improving the lives of young people. We believe in sowing and reaping. We know that there's going to be a return. So I have 3 quick points and I'll be out of the way. I promised you 10 minutes. Dr. Knight, what is it that makes you such a great example of service? First of all, it's her passion. You could not be around her and not sense her passion. She was passionate for her students. She would advocate for her students. I did not want to see Dr. Knight on the wrong side because she might fight for her students. Because her passion was there. She had her way. Brunswick, Georgia, the home of the Gullah Geechee, the strong people from the West African coast where they grew rice and indigo was produced from that region, but that strength and passion that took them through the Middle Passage, that brought them to that lonely island, that allowed them to continue to educate their children against all odds. The passion stayed alive. I mentioned her presence. I would meet her on the parking lot. We weren't in the same department. I'm in business, she's in math. I didn't go to the same conferences. I met her on the parking lot. But it was her presence. Her presence, she always, Dr. Williams, how are you doing? What's going on? Not just in the department, in your life. Her presence, her ability to be there, even on a parking lot. I saw myself in her. I heard the voice. My aunt, my great aunt B, was my first grade teacher. We did not have kindergarten. That was my first entry into formal education. I knew her as Aunt B. I knew her as my great aunt, where I would sit at the table in her dining room. That's how I knew her. When I came into the first grade and she said, you have to call me Miss Wills, I was saying, wait a minute, you're Aunt B. But when I heard Genevieve Knight's voice on the parking lot, I heard my Aunt B. I could see myself. I saw educators from my childhood. I heard them in her voice. And even though I was a mature, grown man with a Ph.D., I heard that passion and presence. And that passion and presence said, doesn't matter what's going on in your life. I know you have troubles, but keep going, because here's an example of service. Last point. She saw potential in everybody. It did not matter what you brought to the table. You can become better than you are right now. That is improvement. And if you keep going, you'll wind up with all of these accomplishments if you keep going. I thank God for her example. I thank God for Dr. Knight. There's a quote by a great man that we all recognize. He said, everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. Here's a lady who figured it out, that my greatness is not in my degrees, not in the fact that I was a Wilson H. Elkins Distinguished Professor for the University of Maryland system, not in the fact that I received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the National Council of Teachers in Mathematics. My greatness, Genevieve Knight's greatness, is in the fact that she was a servant. We thank you, Dr. Knight. We've come to memorialize you. They made my job easy because good words were said about you before I took the stand. Am my 10 minutes up yet? If it's not, I'm done anyway. But on behalf of the family and the Coppin Nation, the Eagle's Nest, we thank you for the privilege of allowing this to be home for Dr. Knight and for the privilege of memorializing her on this day. We're grateful. We're going to close now. We're going to close, I do believe, I want to land the plane appropriately. We're going to close with the benediction, but that will be after the family is allowed to leave. COVID privilege, COVID protocol. I know we want to greet the family. You okay? Okay. They said it's okay. They said it's okay. But let's be mindful of COVID protocol. Maintain the distance, give them an elbow bump, give them a distance hug, and let them know that you love them. Won't you all stand as we prepare to be dismissed? Let's look to the Lord. God, we're grateful once again, and we thank you for the greatness of a servant. In the scripture you said, I am he that was dead, but now I am alive forevermore. Dr. Knight has committed her body to science, but we commit her spirit to you. Now unto you, God, who is able to keep us from falling and present us faultless before your throne of grace with exceeding joy. To the only wise God, our Father, be glory, honor, dominion, and power, now and forevermore. And let all those who love Dr. Knight say amen, amen, and amen. God bless you. You may be dismissed.